Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in Chill Hill, aka the Frosty series. Today, I think it's time to start domestically growing all of these wonderful Bonbon trees. Maybe even get into some spigot seal ranching. While this wild system that I've been using for a little while to generate ethanol and nectar is okay, I really want to start mass producing the nectar instead of getting it drip fed to us as it currently is. But the big reason we want to start grabbing all that nectar is because then we can throw it into a polymer press and create some plastic. Right now, we don't have another source of plastic available to us because the bottom of this planetoid, I don't believe, has an oil biome. In fact, once again, if we go up to our star map, we can look at all the biomes that are naturally available on this planetoid. And notice, none of them say oily biome. Also on our today, I'm going to be working on our first really retrofit of this setup. While I like what we've done here with our oxygen production, as a quick reminder, we have some rails that the Oxalite can ride on that is controlled by automation, which is keeping the main part of our base nice and oxygenated, and there are actually no points where it's too pressurized, which of course keeps the dupe's ears from popping. And so far, this system has been working very well. And because this room is sitting in nothing but an oxygen-rich environment, we have a couple of pumps here to where we have an availability of gas pipes that we can throw into things like suits or the enclosed telescope. With that being said, I think it's just ugly. Plus, we only have enough room in here for 2 gas pumps, and I think we might need some more. Now, the inevitable question came up in the comments, why don't I just use those pipes for the oxygen? Well, just because I wanted to try something new. Yes, we could put all this oxalite and we could separate it into multiple debris piles to where we could produce enough oxygen at a time so our gas pumps could send that oxygen anywhere we wanted to anyways. But in this case, I just wanted to try the rail method. The other problem that I need to sort of fix is the fact that there's 5.9 kilos worth of pressure in here, so it is popping the eardrums because the oxygen mask stocks don't prevent that in the same way that regular suits do. I'm not too worried about the pressure getting so high that it stops the aloe veras, because that doesn't happen until 10 kilos worth of pressure. Eventually, it could happen and would before it ended up stifling this carbon dioxide geyser. But I'm going to build in another system that's going to prevent it as well. That's also going to take care of all the carbon dioxide here. And that's all going to tie into the carbon dioxide disposal from the main part of our base as well. Normally, we would use the carbon skimmer to take care of this whole problem. But remember, the carbon skimmer requires water. And keeping water from freezing around here is not an easy feat. So once again, we're going to be trying something a little different. But step 1, I think, is going to be with the Bonbon trees. So let's go ahead and plant another farm here. I don't think we're ever going to want to go out through here. Eventually, I'm going to seal this base in and we're going to use suits. Not because, well, I'm worried about the thermals and sealing it in, but rather because I only want the duplicates to enter and exit the base at one point. So we'll just seal it in with a complete wall. I'm going to need that done. Oh yeah, this is going to be fine. I will be using the regular farm tiles to plant these things in, and it looks like they're going to take up about the same amount of space as an arbor tree. I also want to make sure I leave room for a stable. Wait a minute. If I am going to be using these wonderful spigot seals, they're going to drain ethanol all over the place. Also, do I really want to do that? Because then they're going to drink all of the nectar and give us ethanol. So maybe I set up 2 of these. Or are we going to be producing nectar fast enough that the spigot seals can't drink it all? Well, it's time for some experimentation. And also means our standard sort of setup here is not going to work out quite the same. These are 3 high, but then I wouldn't have any room for any auto sweepers or anything. So it looks like I'm going to need more like a 5 or a 6 tile high room. So it looks like I'm going to need to move these over as well. This will be fine here. And then we'll also dig through here. We have a lot to do today. In our first blueprint of the episode, I have been looking for a decorator, except this decorator is an unpracticed artist. So I think we're going to pass on Rowan and once again just grab some oxalite. While the duplicants are prepping that, I've also have some work being done down here. Hence the reason I'm a little desperate to grab some more dupe labor. We're only sitting at 10 duplicants. And once this is all set up and finished, we'll be able to add another 17 of the aloe veras, which will bring us a lot closer to the amount of aloe veras that we can run with this carbon dioxide geyser, which will help in the meantime for keeping this pressure low. Our next dormancy on the geyser is not for another 41 cycles, so the pressure is just going to keep going higher and higher. Not too big of a deal, but this will at least be a quick stopgap. And then this room here is going to turn into our oxygen production center. Speaking of which, we have some oxalite riding the rod train. Looks like it was time for a little bit more oxygen. And I suppose in addition to making sure that we don't suffocate the aloe veras, it's probably about time to put the dupes into real suits. And this area here seems well suited. Or maybe we go lower by 1. That way it'll give us a little bit more room in the future. I will just have to make sure I block this off. And I think we're also going to have the dupes in suits when they go up through here because this pressure is getting a little higher right now as well. I don't know. First things first. And that is going to be getting into hazard protection to unlock the suits, to unlock everything we need for the suits to include the exosuit forge. Choo-choo! More oxalite coming into the rod station. It makes sense that this area was finished first because it's closer to the base, and duplicants typically do tasks of equal priority based on distance from where they are. With those copied over, I can deconstruct those, and now to think of our design. To start off with, of course, we're going to have our farm tiles and enough room for a critter drop-off and our grooming station, so maybe here? What do these little guys eat? Looking at it, they only take the nectar from the Bonbon tree, so there's no additional food that we have to worry about. So I don't need to worry about sticking a critter feeder into that ranch. So I guess I can... Oh, wait a minute. 3 tiles, which means the Bonbon tree's branches would be over there, so I need to move it there. And then every 3 tiles, we'll put another one. And then for the rest of the tiles, it's going to have to be mesh tiles. Now, this still poses another issue, which... Oh, I've got an idea. What I was going to say is this still poses an issue because when the seals deposit their ethanol on the ground, it's going to make a huge mess. Well, we're going to take care of that by having mesh tiles everywhere that we can, which means all of the ethanol will end up dropping through into this area here. Well, there'd still end up being ethanol sitting on top of these farm tiles, which sounds like a perfect job for our fun friend Sweepy. The next stage of this build is going to be where the ethanol is depositing down to. It doesn't have to be a whole nother row. This just makes it convenient for me because, well, all of our rows in our base look like this. But I also am going to want to get rid of all these goodies here, and that way the duplicants aren't going to get sopping wet every time they come in here and grab some random ore or ice. I'm also just going to cut off that side of the base, make sure we have a connection with power, and a liquid pipe that comes out so we can send that ethanol anywhere we want, which chances are it's going to be directly into our plum squash plants. In fact, I'm going to want to prioritize the use of this ethanol before we end up using the ethanol in our tanks. So why don't I use a wonderful buffer? Whoa, we don't have buffer tanks yet? Okay, I'm going to have to go get buffer tanks, but we're going to put a buffer tank here, and that way it can keep pumping all the ethanol regardless if the plum squashes don't need it. And then it's going to come down here, but I'm going to bridge this on like so. So none of the ethanol that's coming into this bridge will be allowed through unless this line is empty. Come on, Luke, we have a back stock of research that we need to get done. I'm starting to think they changed something with the masks. Freya here does not have popped eardrums. Yet there's 6 kilos worth of carbon dioxide pressure in here, and I know that's enough to pop the eardrums. I think popped eardrums normally happens after 4 kilos of pressure, but none of the dupes are getting the popped eardrums. Well, I just went looking through the patch notes, and I didn't see anything about changes to the oxygen masks or the popped eardrums debuff, so let me know in the comments below if you know what's going on here. Over on our tree farm, it is time to do a massive sweep just to clean this place up a little bit. Again, I don't want the duplicants to get sopping wet, which we know that debuff is working as intended. So we're going to get this place cleaned up. And while that is going on, it's time to find our wonderful buffer tanks. Here we go. We really haven't done too much on the research front. I guess we just haven't been in a hurry. I suppose it is only cycle 147, but I feel like normally we're a lot further along in our playthroughs. No reason why we can't get some bonbon trees down here and get them started. Oh, I still didn't build enough room in here, did I? Oh, here we go again. I suppose we're going to need some space for the sweepy anyways, so I'm just going to get rid of this one right here. And I'll put the critter drop off over here. I'm also going to have a temporary storage bin here for snow. Now, that's not going to be the permanent solution, because eventually I want to have the snow railed in. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not going to have enough room up there because I'm going to need to put lights. Okay, hold on. Okay, here's what we have so far. We're going to have enough room in this farm for 6 bonbon trees and 8 spigots. Now, the spigots are going to drink the nectar from the bonbon tree, releasing ethanol. When they release ethanol, it's going to come down here. This liquid pump's going to pick it up, put it in this liquid reservoir, and we've already shown where that's going. Now, you'll notice there's actually liquid outputs on the trees themselves, because we could pump the nectar out of it. At least that's my assumption. Now, you'll notice the bonbon trees are growing just fine, and that's because, well, all it takes for them to grow is snow. But in order to get nectar, we have to put light on those branches. Now, invariably, there's going to be people in the comments that say, hey, why don't you use the new mercury ceiling light? It produces a great amount of light and it's pretty nice. Well, that's because it's stuck behind applied sciences research and we're not quite there yet. So we're going to do a couple of things. First, I'm going to find every last little crystal thing that I brought up here and bring it down there and see how much light we can generate. There's one. Handily enough, you can actually search for it as a resource. Looks like I have 10 of them hiding around here somewhere. So now I can just click them. We'll save that one there. Here's another one right here. I had one over by the metal refinery, but we don't use the metal refinery that often. At least not yet. Oh, and of course, there's plenty down here that we can get to carving and grab those. We'll see how much light we can produce with these, and I'll give you an update here in a little bit. Because it looks like, just like the arbor trees, these things are going to take a little while for both the trunks to grow and then the branches. And we can't bring the spigot seals in here until they actually have something to eat, so we'll hold off on that too. In the midst of way too many concurrent building projects, we have found this wonderful Frankie. They are going to be the colony's doctor and decorator. In addition to doctor decorating, they also have suit wearing, which is going to make them speedy quick. They also have shriveled taste buds and pacifist. No one cares. Welcome to Chill Hill, duplicate number 11, Alyssa Alcaraz. I think we'll start Alyssa into art fundamentals. We don't necessarily need the doctoring skill quite yet, but now with every new dupe, we're also going to have to make a new warm coat, so I might as well make, say, 5 of these. I've also expanded our Great Hall a little bit, even though we're not using the wood heaters right now, just in case I ever wanted to turn them on. I realized I didn't need to have them in 2 separate rooms, because they'll cover this entire area, and as long as we have a plant and a water cooler in here, we can actually make the Great Hall a little bit bigger, or at least allow it to sit more dupes. I've also turned off auction production, because we're about to switch it over. And this is what this new system is going to look like. I just have to wait for a little bit more iron to come, and that way I can power everything down here. I ended up splitting this sort of industrial area here off from the main line because, well, the potential load was just getting entirely too high. And then I had to create another one for the simple reason that all of this could potentially be working at the same exact time, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't all in the same circuit. Yes, we're in that weird, awkward middle game time where I don't have a real spine, and we're just sort of hodgepodging it around with all the sort of individual power networks. We're also going to have to start planning on what we're going to do here. This cool salt slush geyser is out of dormancy, and so this whole tank is starting to fill up again. Which, yeah, it's cooling it down, but remember, we're not using this water other than sending it through a metal refinery, so we're never getting rid of the heated brine. And eventually, the cool salt slush geyser is going to fill this tank enough to where it's going to be overpressured and not erupting anymore. So I'm going to have to start planning on something to do with all this brine, whether it be feeding it to a plant or just getting rid of it altogether. But so far, for the amount of metal that we've created using the metal refinery, this system has worked out well for quite some time. In the meantime, I completely forgot to turn off auto harvest on the branches, so it's going to take a little bit longer. Let me go ahead and disable And that'll work out well there. I do want to enable the harvest on the nectar for now. No, I'll keep everything disabled. And that way we can see how much nectar the spigot seals require. Now let me go pick up all this wood. No, don't move my lumen quartzes. What's wrong with you? Let's turn off lumen quartz down here. All right, that's better. Fun fact, carved lumen quartzes are under rare resource. It looks like we're about ready to go down here. I suppose I should probably move all this oxalite. We have 11 tons in this pile and 12 tons in this pile. Actually, it'd be better if I did that by rail, wouldn't it? So as a matter of fact, I will start separating it from here and then flip it so it rides this rail here, just like the rest of the conveyor loaders will. And then all I have to do is connect it in here and connect it in here. Get rid of these. We're sort of backfeeding the whole system. The carbon dioxide is going to want to sink, so I'll go in here through the bottom. No chance of being overpressured in there, so that's not a big deal. I guess I got to go in through both sides. I can't reach up there. Now to start off with, there's entirely too much carbon dioxide in our oxygen center, so I need to dump all of this. And assisting us is going to be our oxygen gas pumps, which means it is time for our get rid of carbon dioxide system, which is just going to be one pipe that goes all the way to space. And for now, I don't see why we can't just treat this gravitas building as sort of a smokestack. Of course, the snow and stuff could probably block this eventually, so I might as well just go up and then over. And occasionally, I guess we'll just come clear this whole thing out. I mean, and since we're out here, let's go ahead and grab some of this wonderful nectar. Ooh la la! On the other side of the colony, our oxygen is now being backfed to the new oxygen system. Notice that there are 6 conveyor chutes, and that way we have 6 different piles of oxalite, all able to oxygenate this system. And in fact, I can even make this more aggressive by using the sconces. I'm going to open this back up. Now, how many sconces we would need, I have no idea. But I'm assuming the wonderful auto sweepers can deliver to the sconces, so let's just keep it all nice and even Steven. Oh, who am I kidding? Let's just do the entire bottom row. Yeah, that looks nice. Back up on the top side, I realized I can probably just prevent snow from ever hitting this by trapping this in like that. And that should definitely work, considering, well, the icy meteors can't really break anything. Will you look at this glorious room here? Now, hilariously enough, as oxalite is known to do, most of the carbon dioxide has been sort of squished. So the only carbon dioxide we really have is sitting in the pipes here. So I'm not too worried about it. So I think we're just going to do something like this temporarily, just until it starts spitting out pure oxygen. And once it does, then we'll have our 3 beautiful pipes full of O2. And it looks like we finally get rid of all the oxalite in there. The last batch is heading over, which means I can now clean up the rest of this, which will give us all these materials back. Ooh la la. Ooh, I did completely forget that I needed to send this automation wire down here though. So I'll have to break back in there one more time. And it looks like our lumen quartzes are plenty of light for the bonbon trees. You can see that each one has a branch productivity stat, which shows how much light is being contributed to the plant's total nectar production. It says optimal lux is 10,000, current lux is 2,000. So domesticated or being grown wild doesn't seem to matter much. Why are you just sitting there? Sweepy? Low battery? Hogwash, you're plugged in. Oh, you're full. We're gonna have to figure that one out too. Oh, as soon as I had the automatic dispensers selected on wood, they came by and cleaned out Sweepy's dock. There's still some iron in there, but I don't see any errands, and I think it's because this is the iron that's used to replace the Sweepy, if that ever comes to pass. As for the ethanol that the seals are going to produce, it's going to be dropped off over here. We have a little nectar dump here. We have some polluted water. So ethanol... Actually, we changed ethanol to be up here, so this will work out well. So whenever Sweepy gets some ethanol inside the Sweepy dock, the dupes will know where to bring it. It would be really handy, though, if you could put a pipe inside the Sweepy dock. So now that we have 6 trees filled with nectar, it's time to go get some seals. Oh, by the way, I did put this little system in here. because I want to be able to drop off snow from time to time. That way the duplicants don't have to manually deliver it to the Bonbon trees. They'll just bring snow here like it's a storage bin. The snow will be distributed between these two conveyor chutes, and then each auto sweeper will be able to grab the packets of snow to fertilize the Bonbon trees. On our critter drop-off, we're going to select Spigot Pup and Spigot Seal, max critters 8, because once again, they require 12 cells of space. Their typical lifespan is 100 cycles, and there's nothing really different about the incubation rate of their eggs either. So let's go grab some seals. 5, 6, here's another one here, and another one here. Good, because I wanted to start with a full ranch. And then we're also going to allow this one to say Spigot Pup Eggs, incubate. And instantly you can tell that the spigots were quite thirsty and have drained all of our Bonbon trees. That didn't take long at all. You can see we are producing nectar at a pretty good clip. I wish there was a specific rate that it would tell you. All it says is 20 kilos per harvest, but it doesn't say how often you get to harvest. Now with this system set up the way it is, I am going to put this on sweep only, and then make sure that they're not going to be dropping off snow into these automatic dispensers, so that way whenever I do find some snow, I can sweep it, they'll drop it off in here, and then the auto sweepers will be able to feed the Bonbon trees. I'm going to let this run for a little bit and see how hungry these seals end up getting. With this amount of light, it may be necessary to limit the amount of seals in here, because as you can see, they're all still looking for food, and that's before they're even tame. So in the end, we might have to put some light bulbs up here. We'll see. After running this for some cycles, you can see some of the spigot seals are doing just fine, although they're looking for food, whereas some of them are straight up saying that they're going to starve to death in 10 cycles. So it may be enough to keep them alive, but they're definitely not happy. Unlike this cutest little boy you'd ever seen. Who's a cute spigot pup? Well, if you're not happy, you should be, because at least you didn't end up as an omelet. So I think we are going to grab some wonderful ceiling lights. And of course, they have to be blossom ceiling lights. And I'm just going to start tagging these in everywhere. Now, lights aren't the greatest, but they should do the trick. In fact, is that one even going to reach? All right, so 4 tile high room. It looks like it can reach over 3 tiles. So this lamp here would only be able to reach over 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it hit these couple of branches. That's not too shabby. Plug these in. Some of these trees are going to be doing better than others, but that's okay. Ah, yes, that's a lot more light. Why do you have popped eardrums? Now my light overlay says we're getting between 5 and 6,000 lux. Sometimes it drops to like 3,800. That's not a big deal. I could put another standing lamp here, but I'm not too worried about it. Now the branch productivity is 56%. Now I'm seeing it. If you highlight over where it says producing nectar, it'll show you each branch's productivity and show you the current rate of nectar production. This tree here is producing it at a rate of 54 grams per second. This one's 78. Let's get one of these in the middle here. 69. Nice. 57. 48 grams. Why is it now saying producing nectar instead of branch productivity up here? What did I do different? Maybe it's because it actually has all of its branches. But with that branch productivity number, I can now figure out exactly how much the seals need and how much we'll have left over, at least at our current light level. And after doing the math, my calculator tells me I'm getting 384.4 grams of nectar per second times 600 seconds means we're getting a little bit over 230 kilos per cycle. Each of these spigot seals requires 40 kilos. Well, 230 divided by 40 means I can only run 5 3/4 of the wonderful little spigot seals. So I will want to reduce this down to 5. And I suppose that's not too bad. Now we know exactly how many spigot seals that we can maintain based on our current light levels. And you know our light levels are not changing unless we figure out a more optimum way to place the lights. Oh, wait a minute here. I suppose I could make all these snow tiles out of glass one day. For the record, mesh tiles do not allow light to go through. And then I could put up a whole nother row of lamps up here and really douse these branches. But we don't have glass, so we can't make window tiles quite yet. It also means we're getting access to tallow when some of these spigot seals naturally expire, or when we realize the ranch had too many of them in it, and we're throwing all of our tallow down here because, well, we don't have access to the wonderful deep fryer yet. We really are going to have to get moving on applied sciences research here soon. We are locked behind so much. Here's another update for you. 100% I can confirm. The dupes that are walking into this area are getting the popped eardrums, whereas the dupes down here are not, which means something did change with the oxygen masks, because it didn't used to prevent popped eardrums, unless my memory's just failing me, which, let's be honest, it does that quite often. But that's going to be okay. We have that solution inbound as well. We're using a standard gas pump connected to a gas element sensor that says oxygen. And the way it works is this gas element sensor is looking for oxygen. Well, it's not going to find any down here because there's carbon dioxide, which means it's going to be spitting out a red signal. That red signal flips to a green with the NOT gate and then gets sent to a filter gate. And as long as it's sitting there for 30 seconds, this gas pump then turns on. And the reason why we use this, let's get rid of these excess aloe veras, is as long as it's not oxygen down here, we want this gas pump to be pumping. And I can set up the same exact system right here. NOT gate into a filter gate, and then we just connect it all up, provide a little bit of power, get it connected to our trash dump, easy peasy. And now we won't be getting any sort of overpressured here either. Now, probably next episode, we're going to get into suits and what I'm planning to be a major split for this base. Right now, I'm thinking of a warm side and a cold side. I haven't figured it out yet. But either way, it'd be great to get off of outhouses. And just like that, all of the carbon dioxide in here will end up being siphoned out. That way, Chris Hoffler doesn't get the popped eardrums, and hopefully they'll be able to breathe. That's a bonus. And both pipes join up and then make the trip all the way up. You'll notice I had to put some insulated tiles down. Didn't love doing that based on how small this asteroid is. I didn't want to waste the igneous rock. And again, I do have volcanoes, but it's cold enough here to cause carbon dioxide to liquefy, which then of course breaks the pipes and then, mayhem. In another note, carbon dioxide and ethanol make a nice little liquid lock. Another change I did make to the oxygen system, and I completely forgot to show you when I did it, was just to conserve iron and the amount of rails we had, I added an independent loop here. And by adding a conveyor bridge and just looping it around, it ensures that the oxalite is continuously moving. And since it's moving, when the oxalite does dissipate, the little basket will disappear. Instead of like the previous problem we have, is when you stop everything, well, then the components don't ever update, so the little baskets do not disappear, which of course then clogs up your whole system. And that way I only have to have one line that heads towards the loop, and the loop itself takes care of oxygenating the base. And once your system is cleaned out and you don't have any carbon dioxide interfering with the mix, all you get is nice clean oxygen drop-off. And remember, this oxalite's not going to dissipate unless there's less than 1800 grams. So this oxalite's just going to continue to sit here, filtering around in this loop until it dissipates, in which case the pressure will be low enough, the atmo sensors fire a signal, and more is sent back up on the line. I really love it when a plan comes together, but I'm still enjoying playing around. And in other news, I set up another Bonbon tree farm, since we're not going to be able to get any nectar out of these thanks to the thirsty boys down here. The only difference between the two is, well, this one doesn't have any seals in it. We were able to put a couple of more Bonbon trees because we didn't need the additional ranching things, and there's no ethanol up here, so we don't need any sort of drain system. Now, another nice new menu I noticed is when you highlight over nectar production halted, it shows the branch growth, so we can see how much longer we have to wait. Let me wait another couple of cycles to get these Bonbon trees producing nectar, and I'll show you the rest of the system. In fact, I can also take all these shine bugs now, and also move them into this ranch. Yeah, we're not ranching any shine bugs or anything like that, but doesn't mean I can't use all their wonderful light. Back here in our Bonbon farm, you can see we already have 360 kilos worth of nectar, and the pipes are plugged directly into the trees just as we suspected, and with the addition of all the shine bugs in here, we have a pretty good amount of light. In fact, the more wild shine bugs I find, the more I can put in here and really light this place up. And then when I turn all these snow tiles into window tiles, their light will also spread down to these branches. It won't be a lot, but it'll help. By the way, without even me noticing, we now have up over 500,000 calories. I'm gonna have to work on that. As it stands, all the completed food is just stacking up here in a pile because there's no raw room in the ration boxes. I suppose we could replace the ration boxes with refrigerators, but it's not going to be long before all 4 of these are filled too. The last update I have for you today is we did put a gas pump in here and connected it to an atmo sensor. Now, if these farms get above 8 kilos worth of pressure, this gas pump will turn on. And remember, we're not doing that for the dupes because they'll always be in a suit, but rather for the plants themselves. So in today's episode, we improved upon our oxygen production while maintaining the spirit of the railed oxygen delivery system. We now have nectar production, tallow production, and even increased ethanol production. And based on how this buffer tank is filling up, I don't even think we're going to have to go with ethanol distilleries. That remains to be seen though. And we also put in a few carbon dioxide removal systems. One over in our industrial chiller, and then finally one in our oxygen system. Next episode, well, we're kind of out of critters and plants to ranch that are on this planetoid. So I say we put these dupes in suits, start figuring out a way forward towards the late game, and start focusing on the ultimate objective, which is the conquering of this geothermal power thing. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. And until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.